Hello and welcome to HomeTech. HomeTech is a podcast dedicated to discovering new and emerging technologies for the home. We discuss news about the Internet of Things, home automation, and more. I'm Seth Johnson in Florida, and I'm joined by Jason Griffin in Los Angeles. Hi everyone, and welcome to HomeTech. I'm Seth Johnson, and as usual, I'm joined by Jason Griffin. Jason, how's it going?
It's going great, Seth. How are you?
Doing well. Last week we talked quite a bit about some big news happening, what we thought was big news, and then I think the day after we stopped recording, just all sorts of huge news dropped this last week.
Yeah, it was a very busy week, wasn't it?
Yeah. Who would have saw that coming? It's the biggest thing I think was the AT&T deal with DirecTV.
Yeah. AT&T acquired DirecTV for $48.5 billion. So obviously very, very big news. As I understand it, the deal is still, pending approval. But it looks like it'll go through, I believe, and definitely a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like they were kind of leveling off on their wireless services from what all the analysts are saying. They needed to get some more customers, and to do it, they spent $48.5 billion to buy DirecTV. So,
yeah, I guess it's kind of natural at this point. The market is fairly saturated with wireless service, and I think it probably has to do with the fact that pretty much everyone who needs a cell phone now, more or less, has one, and so AT&T is kind of looking at different ways to grow their business and grow their revenue, and so they looked to DirecTV. And I know for me, I don't know about you guys in Florida, but out here in Los Angeles, when we're doing projects, we really like DirecTV. Overall, we think it's the best offering out here for your TV package. And the only thing that kind of causes us to push people maybe more towards a company like Time Warner is that they bundle with phone and internet. Now, I know DirecTV has been doing that sort of for a while. Like I think they paired up out here with AT&T to offer like satellite TV service along with like a DSL internet package. But like, who really wants DSL? I mean, honestly.
Right. What is that?
Yeah. It's now it looks like they're being acquired by AT&T. AT&T will, of course, have a lot of vested interest in continuing to grow DirecTV's business. So I think it's great. I think it'll just kind of depend how it plays out. And I know generally there's kind of a sentiment out there that overall this may not be good for the consumer, though.
Right. Well, I mean, you have less choice at the end of the day in some markets where AT&T may be. I know they have like a AT&T U-verse, I think, is their fiber optic plan. So, I doubt that they're the only ones, competing in those particular areas. But, I think DirecTV, we use it quite a bit out here because people just get absolutely ticked off at the local Comcast provider. So a lot of people do use it. I like their, from an integration perspective, I do like their boxes a lot better. They have IP control now and all sorts of nice stuff. You can actually control them, which is even better.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I didn't even really think about that in the context of this story, but you're right. I think DirecTV's hardware is generally like a lot better. I mean, feels to me like out here that Time Warner hasn't like updated their cable boxes in so long, and the AT&T stuff, it just keeps coming out smaller, sleeker. They're a lot more integration friendly, like you mentioned. They've all got like discrete power on and off commands, which you don't generally get out of cable boxes. And that might sound like a subtle thing, and there may be people listening that aren't even familiar with what that means, and we won't go there now. But the takeaway is just that, yeah, they generally for us are a lot easier to integrate with third-party control systems.
Yeah, and if it's easy for us to integrate with, then the end user experience is going to be so much better. That said, I mean, DirecTV on the company side isn't that well liked either. It's still like kind of one of those big providers, and I can't say that I've ever been happy with an install done by DirecTV, where they use their infamous subcontractors that kind of go out and strap a dish to your roof. I don't know how they get away with drilling holes in somebody's roof, but they do it. And
yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get when you have your actual installation contracted through like 1-800 DirecTV. It's a total crapshoot. And I've worked with a small handful of those guys that were great and did a clean job, but for the most part, we don't really like them coming near like our racks where we're installing gear. We try to kind of keep them away from that. And I know out here in LA, we've got a couple of companies that we contract with that they sort of have a different arrangement with DirecTV, and they're kind of like a third-party installer, and they come in and they work on more of our high-end homes because they actually know that market and kind of know what they're doing in these sort of homes.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I don't think we have those guys around here, and in fact, I know we don't.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's tough. I mean, and for the average homeowner who's just calling, like you said, calling DirecTV to do the install, they're not going to be happy with that install. I wouldn't be happy letting somebody drill holes in my roof, but that's...
Yeah, and I think in the context of this story, though, it's like one of those things that all of these companies are huge. I mean, I can't really name one company that's as big as any of like these ISPs or service providers that is actually like a pleasure to deal with. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Like when a company just gets that big, it's like it's the most difficult thing in the world for them to ensure a consistent level of service across an organization that big, and that's a huge challenge for them. So, cable companies, ISPs, companies like that, we love to hate them. Like that's just part of the nature of the business.
Easy.
And
it's so easy.
Yeah, and they don't do themselves any favors. But I don't see how this merger really has any bearing on that. I know that I saw a number that some company had done a survey about this potential deal, and only 15% of people interviewed or asked thought that this deal was going to be a net benefit for consumers. So I think generally the sentiment about it is pretty low, but that can get skewed, and I think that always happens with these big mergers. And personally, I think that there's as many good things that could come of it as there are bad. So it'll just kind of depend on each user and each person's individual experience, whether or not it's a good deal for them, I think, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think the biggest question on everybody's mind is what's going to happen to the NFL Sunday ticket. I mean,
yeah,
I don't really care about AT&T or DirecTV, and just what's going to happen with football.
Yeah, that is like a very high question on my list as well. And I saw one article where a guy was kind of implying that somehow this deal there was some sort of dark angle to it that they weren't talking about that had a bearing on this NFL ticket package. And I read the article and I just didn't see how this changes anything. I mean, if DirecTV had negotiated the exclusive rights with the NFL for that package for X number of years, then yeah, it would logic would follow that AT&T will now have that same agreement. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't see how that changes anything.
Right. And I mean, possibly they would get more, like a bigger market, right? I mean, I would think that maybe if you were on AT&T Uverse, I don't know how this works on the business world. I'm not a lawyer, but maybe those customers who are on AT&T Uverse would be able to access that programming. I don't know. It just seems like that would be a pretty big win for some consumers if you can get
so
that.
So like what you're saying is actually a benefit. Like more people will have access to the package than before. And it's a good question. I don't know how this whole thing impacts Uverse. Obviously it's a very different technology. Uverse is fiber optic and DirecTV is satellite. So will they continue to push both of those offerings side by side? Does this have any bearing on the future of Uverse as a TV service? I don't know. And those two could be totally unrelated, or there could be some tie in there. I'm not really sure. But, as far as the NFL ticket goes, like you said, I mean, if anything, it seems like this could actually make that package available to more people.
Right. And who doesn't love football?
Exactly. Yeah. Can't wait. But yeah, and then generally I think people are just worried about the anti-competitive aspect of it, and like, will prices go up? I saw AT&T has agreed as part of the deal to not raise prices for 3 years. So that's probably just a show of good faith, I would assume, and who knows what'll happen after that. But I think the deal will go through. I don't see it not going through. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'd be surprised if it didn't, I guess.
No, it's going to get the rubber stamp, and it'll be approved and walked on through, and people in Congress will have nice lobbying positions after because of it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's the way the world works these days. So
you got it.
Yeah. So I'm cynical, I guess.
It happens.
Yeah. So I mean, that was big news on that front. On the home automation front, pretty big news comes from SmartThings this week. Had a pretty major update. It looks like that they announced at what conference was that?
The O'Reilly Solid.
Yeah. It looks like a really cool conference.
Yeah, it does. It's looks like a conference that's really all about the stuff that we kind of focus on when we talk about the Internet of Things, connected homes, all that. And I believe it's up in San Francisco, and definitely looks like a conference that would love to go to sometime. But yeah, a lot of big news comes out of that, and SmartThings was no exception. They released what looks like a substantial upgrade to their app and product offerings this week.
Yeah, they one of the biggest things, to me at least, was for developers. They kind of made it easy for end users, so people who have purchased the product, to use these what they're calling labs. So kind of like a techie features or something that wasn't fully polished or ready for release. They can try early.
Right.
Google's kind of done this for years. Like in Gmail, there's a labs feature that you can go in and turn on some hidden features in Gmail that really actually make Gmail a whole lot better to use. So I think this is probably following that model, and I think it's great. For everyone, for developers, it just really shows that they have a mature platform here, and they're moving forward with that. But they've also announced integrations with a couple of other partners, like Life 360, which we talked about last week, and Jawbone, which is a little fitness wrist
wearable
application. Yeah, wearable. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I saw, obviously read about it quite a bit. As far as the kind of opening it up for developers and sort of the, how mature the platform is becoming, I think that's a big thing that SmartThings is pushing, and I think it's great. And it looks like, for a while, SmartThings, I think, has sort of had the API out there and allowed people to kind of tinker with it. But this is kind of, as I understand it, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of making those solutions that people are out there tinkering and coming up with, it's kind of making those easier to access. So it's giving you actually part of the new app, and they did quite a bit of changes to the user interface. But now, like within the main dashboard of the app, you've got something right at the bottom of the screen that's like a link to the SmartThings labs, or whatever they're calling it, where you can go in right from the app and kind of see some of these solutions that people are coming up with. And if you want to deploy them in your own system and take a crack at them, then they're right there and very easy to access.
Yeah, exactly. And that's awesome. It's just, I think this is one of the shining examples of what we're going to see. And it may be, the what kind of takes the market by storm. They're doing a whole lot right here. So
yeah, I would agree. And they're definitely one to watch. It looks like they, in addition to making things a little easier for developers and kind of embracing that, this recent update was a big overhaul of the user interface on the iOS and I believe they also have an Android app, where they're just kind of giving you a different view of the house, and they're giving you this dashboard where it's easy to see like a bunch of information about your house right there on the dashboard. And there's some videos up, and we'll link to those in the show notes at HomeTech.fm. But overall, it looks like they put a lot of work into improving the app. So it goes to show that, they're really invested in this technology. They're doing a lot to make home automation and do-it-yourself home automation accessible and fun for a lot of people. And so I think it's great. I love, watching what they're doing. And I think in general, what they're doing for home automation in that market is great.
Yeah, definitely. And the interesting one that we kind of touched on a little bit earlier was the Life 360. We talked about it last week, where they were acquired? No, they weren't acquired.
Yeah,
we were
actually
corrected on
needed
that.
to issue a correction on that. So we actually, on our last episode, had talked a little bit about this and said that Life 360 had been acquired by ADT for $25 million. Well, it turns out, heard from them on Twitter, they appreciated the shout out from the show, but they actually wanted to point out that they weren't acquired. They were invested in. So I didn't dive into the details or talk to them too much about that. Like, I don't know what kind of, I don't know if it was even made public, what kind of details were involved, like for equity and things like that. But the takeaway is that they were not acquired. They were actually invested in. So that even, I think, bodes even better for Life 360, because that means that their valuation is even, higher than that, right? Like they're simply getting an investment or an infusion of $25 million and bringing on obviously a very strategic partner in ADT.
Right. And after I saw this, integration with SmartThings, I decided to go ahead and download the app and take a look at it a little bit more in depth. It's not really a novel idea what they're doing. They're just kind of, you can add, your family members' phones into the Life 360 app, and you can kind of track, kind of like Find My Friends does on iPhone. I don't know if you've ever played around with that.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, but it's more cross-platform, so you could use an Android or iPhone, I guess, to do this. And then what you get when you do that is, if you look at the map, not only do you see where your family members are, or your friends, you can have different circles, like how they do it in Google. I don't know if they still do. They do in Google Plus.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the circles concept. So you'd have your circles with your family, maybe immediate family. Then you have circles with your extended family, and then maybe a circle for friends and whatnot. Different social aspects of your life. And then what you can do is see where they are, but you can also see kind of like crime statistics that start loading in. So this kind of explains the ADT, the ADT interest. Yeah, you can, it comes up with these little blue and purple dots and circles, and you can click on them, and it pops up with a crime happened here. It was vandalism or assault and battery.
Oh, wow.
Or yeah. You kind of get like the police reports that are done. It tells you when it happened and everything. But it also comes up with like the sexual predators, which,
wow. Well, that's great. I mean, it's that's super important, obviously, to know, especially for people with kids.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't want to have your kids playing over at somebody's house and then like see a little blue dot there and click it and like, no, what's going on?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that would be bad. So I mean, that I can, and they probably have. I didn't dive too deep into the app, but they probably have little alerts that you can set up.
Mm-hmm.
If something happens.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a smart app, and it's an interesting concept and very well done, very well designed. I really liked it. So but what they're doing with SmartThings is they're using those geolocations data as triggers for, say your kids get home, you want to know, you can use those actions as basically sensors to know that your kids came home and execute some type of maybe a lighting scene or turn off the TVs or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and then you also know when people are not in the home. So if you could probably set up a rule to say no one's home. Everybody's out of the house. Maybe you can turn off all the TV. Turn off all the lights. Make sure the lights and doors are locked and all that good stuff. So
so they're kind of taking like this idea, like you said, it's not a novel idea. There's a lot of applications obviously already using sort of location awareness and even like tying into the social aspects of that. But they're sort of taking a unique angle at it, like in terms of what they're using that data for. And so it's kind of like the safety angle. And so in that sense, I think, their partnership with ADT is, like I said, a very strategic one, makes a lot of sense. And, they've just been kind of popping up on the radar because this SmartThings update that we talked about this week, which was a big deal, specifically mentioned integration with Life 360 now.
Yeah. And it's a neat service. It's free, so, why not? But and they have some premium levels that you can pay for. Like if you have an emergency, you can press a button and it'll call somebody. I don't know how useful that would be, I guess, because I'm gonna dial 911 pretty quickly rather than where's that app,
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess if there's something going on, you get an alert from a maybe you can get an alert from your family. You can send messages back and forth to your family in there. So it's a pretty cool app when it comes to that. And it's very well done and cross-platform. So not only on iOS, but it's on Android too. So
yeah, well, I'm glad you got a chance to check that out. Like you said, we had touched on it briefly in last week's show, but I admittedly wasn't too familiar with it. So
neither was I. So
yeah, sounds like something to take a look at, and it sounds like it could be definitely a very useful, nice app for the right person.
Definitely. So another huge acquisition, and this one is an acquisition. Harman is acquiring AMX.
Yeah, I saw that. And for people who don't know, Harman is a gigantic conglomerate, and they own like a ton of different companies in the sort of audiovisual consumer electronics realm. So they're a giant. And AMX is an automation company. So if you've heard of Crestron, they're in that same vein. I don't think AMX is nearly as big as Crestron. I don't work with AMX much. As I understand it, it's a little bit more popular in the commercial side of things. So like government installs or, I don't know, convention centers or things like that. But, even in those worlds, Crestron has a huge footprint. But AMX is sort of a direct competitor to Crestron. So if anybody is familiar with that, they basically make automation gear for commercial and home environments as well.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty much this is the higher end. Like it would probably compete with the higher end of Crestron installs. Yeah, and the White House I think was kind of their they didn't really. I don't know if they've acknowledged it, but it's around in industry circles. At least I've heard that the White House had some AMX automation gear inside. Who knows if that's still true or they're using
nice
Crestron.
Little feather in their cap.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. So. But they were acquired, I believe, for like 325 million, I believe. It was 300 something million. 365 million. And, it's like at first when I saw that number, I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. And truthfully, I don't know because I have no idea what their, revenue per year is or anything along those lines. But I was talking about it with another friend of mine in the industry. And really, when you think about it, it's kind of crazy because you've got a company like AMX that's been around for, I don't even know how long, probably 20 years. I'm just guessing. They've got a gigantic array of products that they offer, and they get purchased for $365 million. And then you get a company like Nest, who has basically one or two products, been around for just a few years, and they're like $3.2 billion. So it's just interesting to compare those two. I know it's not a direct comparison, but to me, it kind of shows that. These traditional companies like AMX, it's a totally different business model. And really the big money, the big interest from investors and things like that is towards these more do-it-yourself kind of products. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a really good point because I'm looking at the CE Pro article that we'll link to in the show notes. And it also has when AMX was previously purchased in 2005, there's a link to that story. And it was purchased for $315 million. So 2005, roughly 10 years, it's only $50,000 worth $50,000 more. So
or $50 million, you mean?
I'm sorry, $50 million more. Like that's not very much.
and when you factor inflation in that, that's it's hardly any increase, right? It's surprising.
Yeah, very, very surprising. Although I can say that it's rare that I run across an AMX shop, especially on the residential side. I have run across them in a commercial setting, and they do have some really, really cool equipment. But it's very rare that I actually run across anything that they do here in Florida. But, things are regional, so it could be more popular elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, and we won't spend any more time on it because I don't think AMX is a brand that really affects most people who probably listen to our show, but it was just something that's worth mentioning. Money moving around in the automation industry. So, in other news that may have a little bit more of a bearing on some of our listeners is Kaleidoscape settled on their their big DVD CCA sort of lawsuit they had going on, and I don't actually know a whole lot about about the details of the case, but for people who may not know, Kaleidoscape is a company that makes really fancy media servers, and basically they've expanded into some streaming services, but their core offering is it's a DVD Blu-ray server. So instead of having to actually get up and load a disc every time you want to watch a movie, you basically take your entire collection, you load it into the Kaleidoscape system, and then it loads that all onto a hard drive and puts up a really nice user interface on your TVs where you can browse your entire library of DVDs by a bunch of different categories and search, and it's a really neat solution, but rather expensive. It's a high-end product that's really you only see in a professional setting. But I know they've been having a lot of issues over the years with sort of copyright infringement sort of lawsuits, and I don't know, maybe you can speak a little bit more to some of the details on that.
I don't even know what a DVD is anymore. So, yeah. No, I mean, right? It's just incredible that this has been going on this long. And everybody listening, they're probably like, well, I have a Plex server and I kind of do the same thing, and I use Handbrake and I rip my Blu-rays and I have, perfect 1080p copies of the Blu-rays. These guys were around long before any of that existed, and they were trying to do it legit. I mean, they were making deals with Hollywood, and they thought they had permission. And then one day, the DVD CCA came down. It was in 2004, so a couple of years ago, and said, no, you can't do that anymore. And they're like, well, wait, we've made all these deals with everybody. We've gotten permission. Here's our letter, from the principal, basically saying we have permission to do this. And they said, no, you don't have permission. We're the new boss here, and you can't do this anymore. So they went into court mode, and I think the product, unfortunately, it's a great product. I mean, the interface is just completely amazing, but and it's definitely needed. I mean, especially in high-end installs, a lot of people don't think about yachts, but yachts are kind of a home that can travel.
Yep. And
you're not going to get satellite service and stream these high-quality 1080p movies to your TV on a yacht. So these there's quite a few of those in the world. It's not just like one or two, and it's the 1%ers that own them, but they don't want to travel across the ocean and not get to watch TV. So,
right.
we've installed quite a few of these in yachts and whatnot, and it's one of those things. It's really unfortunate that the industry really couldn't see the future, because I think by blocking things like Kaleidoscape for as long as they did and kind of putting it in legal jeopardy, I think it really hurt that portion of the industry where people were just kind of going and doing things, illegally, and downloading software that wasn't under the regulation of these guys. And, that's played out many, many times over. But I really wish that Kaleidoscape had gotten past this earlier. And, it's 2014. We don't even deal with DVDs anymore, and they're still in court over this. So.
Yeah, and maybe who knows? Maybe that has something to do with why they're settling. But the DVD CCA, the Copy Control Association, is basically saying that even if you own the disc, you're not allowed to make copies of it. And Kaleidoscape is saying, well, if they own, essentially if they own the disc, they own the movie, they own the bits, the ones and the zeros. So what they do with those ones and zeros is up to them, and that's kind of the crux of the argument. And I definitely side and empathize with Kaleidoscape on this one. And there's a lot of reasons why, but like one of the main reasons why I think this whole thing is kind of silly is that the DVD CCA, by doing this, they're not stopping anybody who really wants to infringe upon copyrights. Like the only people that they're impeding from doing this are the people that want to do it legitimately, and the people that want to do it legally. They want to go out and actually buy the disc and then, just have it on a convenient server where they can watch it. And they're not, by doing this, they're not stopping anybody from actually pirating the content, because people who really want to do it are going to find a way with a program, like you said, like Handbrake or something like that. So the whole argument, and this gets into a broader argument about just piracy in general, there's really no great way to stop it, because the more you try to enforce it and the more rules you put in place, you're really only stopping the people who want to do it legitimately. And the people who don't care about the law to begin with, they're going to find a way to do it regardless.
Right. If DVD rippers are illegal. Only criminals will have DVD rippers.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but I think you also make a good point. It's like this whole argument and physical discs, DVDs, Blu-rays are, I think that whole industry that manufactures discs and everything, that they're in a lot of trouble because everything is going to streaming now. And it's only a matter of time until these physical discs, I believe, are just kind of a relic or almost a collector's item, like the way you have some people who really love to collect books or vinyl records because they love the physical product on their shelf. I think you'll still have that with movie buffs, like people who like to show off their big collection of movies, and that's great. But I think for the mass market, for the everyday person, streaming is where everything is headed.
No, definitely. I mean, that's definitely where it's going. But again, there are those couple of use cases where this would fit in really nicely, and the people on yachts, the people on airplanes, and the people that get stuck with DSL service.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Man, we're just bashing on DSL.
Yeah, today. DSL, down with DSL.
So yeah, I think there was one other story that we had wanted to touch on, and that was the new D-Link smart plug. We had talked about that recently. D-Link is kind of entering the home automation game with a product that looks very similar to Wemo's smart plug. So it's basically a little plug. You stick it in the outlet. It connects to your Wi-Fi, and you can, have a smart outlet. And it had come out, and I don't think it had been announced or been officially out for more than, maybe a couple weeks or something like that. And
it felt like a couple of days.
Yeah. I mean, it was quick.
Yeah.
It was very quick. And you had come across an article that said, there had already been an exploit or a hack that had been revealed where somebody could, get full control of your outlets. So I don't know enough to know like how difficult this hack is. Are people really like in danger? But it was interesting because the story came out like literally right after we heard about the product.
Yeah, it didn't take long. The hackers, they get right on devices like this and start poking around and seeing what they can find. And this one evidently is a fairly easy one to hack. It was some kind of it's a flaw from what I can understand. There's all sorts of code and whatnot on here that they can probably fix with a patch. But when they ship something, that means somebody's going to have to update it. So and I was just in somebody's house today. It's like, oh, you need to update your iPad this app on the iPad, and they don't even know where their Apple ID password is or anything. So I mean, it's one of those things that updates are kind of tough to do these days, and especially when you have a third party device like a wall outlet. When and how does that get updated? So
yeah, I think with updating in general now, the challenge is just that there's so many devices with the Internet of Things and so much just stuff that's coming online. And how do you keep on top of it all? Like there's just so many things that need to update. And, you can, a lot of different products now, you can kind of set them to automatically update. But even that's not the greatest thing because, some like if it's your, I don't know, Philips Hue lights and you set them to automatically update, you might come home one night and try to turn on your lights when you're walking in with 3 bags of groceries and your kids and it's dark and the thing might be updating, right? So it's not like a panacea to have these automatic updates. There are downfalls to that too, and I think it's just trying to stay on top of all these updates is becoming increasingly challenging. And like you and I work in that world where we have a lot of different clients and they have their level of comfortable, like their level of, being comfortable with technology, it runs the gamut. And a lot of them just like I'll go into clients' houses and they're still running iOS like 3.1 on their iPads,
oh, wow.
And it's like, it's rare to see that, but they are out there. And so, I think generally, I guess the takeaway is just stay on top of the updates. Just make sure as you start to bring this technology into your home and into your life, just be mindful of it and make sure that you're staying on top of those updates.
Yeah, definitely. Updates are a good thing. There's all the security flaws and whatnot that we have. I mean, if you're on any version of iOS 6, I think there was a pretty major SSL bug on that. You have to update to iOS 7 to take care of. Mm-hmm. And I think iOS 5 is fine, but there's not too many devices still on that. And then Android, there's exploits in that come along, once a week, it seems like. But it's tough to, I guess, a lot tougher to update those.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. All right. Well, yeah, we got a holiday weekend ahead of us at the time of this recording. You got any big plans for Memorial Day?
Not really. We have a nice beach here, so I'll probably be heading down to that tomorrow and having a picnic. And
nice.
Yeah, getting some family in to go down there and do something along those lines, and hopefully avoid the heat because it's hot now. Like, it's hitting the 90s and really humid. So
yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, summer's here.
Yeah, we're going to be kind of laying low as well here this weekend. But yeah, hopefully people enjoyed the show. We didn't really have a feature this week, but it was a busy news week. So we just wanted to kind of focus some time on covering some of these stories. So hopefully people enjoyed it. And if so, we definitely encourage them to come over to HomeTech.fm, leave us a comment, let us know how we're doing. If you have any suggestions for the show or any topics that you would like to hear us cover, definitely let us know. Also, if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review, that would be greatly appreciated as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you can find me on Twitter at Seth P. Johnson. Jason, where can they find you?
Yeah, at Jason Griffing, and would definitely love to hear from our audience. And again, just let us know how we're doing, and if you have any topics that you'd like to see covered on the show or anything like that, feel free to reach out and give us the heads up on that.
Yep, definitely. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Jason.
All right, take care, Seth.